the Obama administration watering down of terrorism, leaving us more at risk. Joining us now, Pennsylvania Congressman and Naval Reserve psychiatrist, Representative Tim Murphy. Representative, thank you for joining us in studio. Is our political correctness making us less safe?
Well, I think so. If you don't know your enemy, you can't fight your enemy. We have an enemy out there who is radical Islamic. Not all, but some. And when you see situations, and by the way, I'm a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, but the issue with regard to identifying someone as workplace violence is missing the point. And that hurts all workplaces. In the workplace, one of the problems is that people think because I have a metal detector, I'm okay. There's a military site where someone had repeatedly contacted some radical Islamists.
We're talking about the Fort Hood massacre.
The Fort Hood massacre. It's pretty clear there's a long history there of this, and the comments he made at the workplace and other issues as well under FBI investigation. To say this is workplace violence throws things off across the nation.
So why do we do that? What's the point? Why does the DOD say it's workplace violence and not homegrown terror, and this gentleman was a terrorist?
It concerns me greatly because within DOD or any other federal agency or any other workplace, if you're not letting employees and other people know what to look for, then when you say, if you see something, say something, see what? Right. If you just see someone taking a package out of a cab, how about if you hear someone making threatening statements and saying people are misunderstood and they're being investigated? Those are all things that should take place. This may have gone into political correctness that actually makes it more dangerous because we're ignoring the enemy that we have to face.
Sure. So maybe you can help us tie up a couple of loose ends. This man, the Major Nadal, had access to al-Awlaki, the imam that was tied to 9/11. Is that right? Accurate on this? At what point, why didn't we step in? Why didn't we say, hey, put this guy away?
Well, a lot of times agencies are collecting more information and watching it. And part of the problem is they also stovepipe that information. Where are they sharing it with his other officers in the military? Where are they sharing with people at Fort Hood? Real questions about how much that took place, if it took place at all. Because when something like that is taking place, it is important to take action. That's how you protect the workplace from terrorist attacks, by letting them know that. That's how some other attacks have been stopped, because people have stepped forward that information. Didn't happen here.
All right, Congressman, hang on. I want to bring in the rest of tonight's all-star panel. On the left coast, Occidental College politics professor, Dr. Carolyn Heldman, and on the right, Andrew's back, along with our very own Sandra Smith. Carolyn, let me start with you. Politically correctness is making us less safe. I believe it. I believe Andrew believes it. I think a lot of America believes it. What do you think of that statement?
Well, Eric, I don't think you have any evidence to support that, and I would go a step further and say that political correctness is not making us unsafe. It is maintaining our civil liberties. We live in a country where just because of the way you look, you can't be put into a classification, and I think it's important, as most Muslims in America are not violent, but they experience violence because people believe that, because you and Andrew Breitbart and others promote these stereotypes. You're actually putting people in danger.
Hey, Doc,
so maybe not national safety, but personal safety.
How many of the 19 hijackers that killed 3,000 people at the World Trade Center were anything but radical Muslims? Just any of them?
All of them, but that does not translate into all Muslims. I have a friend whose father is Sikh, and he was shot at because of these sorts of stereotypes.
May I say that every attack by hijacking of an airplane that ended up in loss of life on American soil has been executed by a radical Muslim?
That's called an anomaly. And let me ask you a question. Every Super Bowl, the feminist leftist establishment hits us with statistics and advertising that attacks men and says that we need to raise awareness. You are isolating.
Not attacks men. Attacks men who beat women?
No,
is that what you're talking about?
But it isolates men.
Not all men beat women, Andrew Breitbart.
No, but that's right. And not all Muslim people are terrorists. That is the point. You are isolating men, saying that they have a proclivity towards attacking women. You are raising awareness who might. You are profiling. You are profiling, and it's logical.
Well, in actuality, Andrew's right. It's the reverse profiling. You don't want us to pick out Muslims and people who may have looked like or have acted like in a manner that may be dangerous to America. You don't want us to do that, but you go the opposite. You go, in fact, don't do that if they're suspicious. Don't separate them.
Why are
nobody is arguing that you shouldn't take multiple variables into consideration. But if you are equating Muslim people with terrorists, there's something wrong with that. And that is where this takes us.
Andrew, let me get it.
And nobody equates men with abusers.
All right, nobody
on the feminist left equates men with abusers.
Guys, stop. Go ahead.
No, they don't.
I would still be curious how you respond to the Fort Hood massacre, being called workplace violence. I mean, some of the numbers prove it here. Congress has said there's been 33 plots now against the military since 9/11, 70% since mid-2009, when, of course, this Fort Hood massacre occurred. I would beg the question. We understand political correctness, but there's political correctness taken too far to where you are endangering U.S. servicemen when you don't address the real problem.
Hang in there, Doc. Hang in there, guys. Go ahead, Congressman.
Well, what happens in a situation like this? The argument she's laying out is it's prejudice against everybody. That's not the case. It's not against all Muslims, not against all military, not against everybody. And that, if we make it that broad, all violence in the workplace, you cannot focus your efforts. We have to focus our efforts on understanding when people make threats, when they are communicating with radicals, when they're involved with these radical issues, they are people that need to be followed. That's not a profile, that's an identification of someone who is at high risk for creating acts of murder and terror. And that's what this is. And if we don't do that, we'll see a lot more than those 30-some plots.
Doc?
I think that anybody who is contacting al-Awlaki or having, correspondence with him should be suspect. You're absolutely correct. But to say that all Muslims in the military should be suspect, I think we would both agree, Doctor, that would not be something that we would want to pursue.
Doc, no one said that there. What I said was simply, if we didn't yank Dr. or Major Nidal Hassan out because he was Muslim, and we waited to get more information, and then he went ahead and killed 13 people, that may have been a mistake. I'm going to have to leave it there. Congressman Tim Murphy, thank you very much for joining us in studio.